Good morning, fellow traders. This is Doug Campbell with Right Way Options, and this is the Morning Market Prep video for March 25th, 2025. Well, everyone, I hope you had a great day yesterday. Nice bullish move in the market. Whether or not it can follow through, that's the question of the day. So how about we take a look at what happened overnight? First off, if we take a look at Asian markets were mixed last night. Australia was essentially flat. The Nikkei was up not quite 0.5%. India was essentially flat, being up 0.04%. And then we saw South Korea down, and my goodness, Hong Kong had a rough day, down 2.35% or 561 points as the worry of tariffs start to pick up in Hong Kong. And then, of course, we have Shanghai that was essentially flat. It lost a nickel yesterday at the close. If we take a look at European markets here this morning, European markets are trying to recover yesterday. Selling, the DAX is up 0.78% or $178. We've got the FTSE right now up more than 0.5%, up 45.07, and the CAC is up over 1% at 83.24. Looking at the U.S. futures this morning, well, a little bit of a mix going on here. When I first got up this morning, everything was bearish, but we've got a bump up, just a mild bump up in the S&P 500. Right now, the Dow futures down 26 points. We've got the NASDAQ futures down $9.75 points, and we've got the S&P 500 futures are up by 75 cents. So a lot of bouncing around here this morning. Whether or not we're going to be able to get that follow through, we'll have to watch carefully here today. If we take a look at oil markets, let's take a look at XLE. XLE continuing to extend this little consolidation out toward the trend here, just banging its head against that resistance. But we've got oil moving higher here once again this morning, of 40 cents at $69.50 a barrel. Brent crude also moving up, coming in at $73.39 a barrel. Natural gas that was down yesterday, trying to move just slightly higher here, and I am a little concerned about that head and shoulders pattern here on natural gas. But right now, pushing up just over a nickel here this morning in natural gas. Let's take a look at what we've got going on in cryptos here this morning. Bitcoin had a really good day yesterday, pushing sharply higher, but this morning we've got Bitcoin looking lower. Right now down $1,054 a coin here this morning, or 1.19%. Ether is down slightly, 0.74%, and down $15.51 after a substantial move yesterday to the upside. So we'll want to be keeping an eye on those. But right now this morning we've got a little bit of a mix going on in those cryptos. I think one of the reasons that is occurring is our bond yields are going higher, raising some of the concerns about rates, concerns as we head toward those GDP and core PCE numbers here toward the end of the week in our economic calendar. If we take a look at the 2-year bond, it right now is at 4.05%. The 10-year bonds moving up to 4.36%. And those 30-year bonds continuing to creep higher at 4.69% here this morning. So we'll have to be keeping a pretty close eye on that. If we take a look at precious metals here this morning, well, we've got gold pushing back higher. It started up yesterday and ended up pulling back on the day as we continue to see that dollar bounce around here. And this morning we've got the dollar just a little bit lower at the moment. Dollar down 14 cents here this morning. Trying to decide, is this going to be a lower high? Will we hold this little double bottom formation and create some kind of support in here where we can rally a little bit from? I think the jury's still out on that. We're going to have to watch that closely. But right now, gold showing some bullishness, up $12.50 an ounce, and a possible bullish pattern in here, holding in here on this, around this trend. May still have to rest a little while. Keep an eye on that. In silver, that has been moving down the last couple of days, trading days anyway. Silver is moving just slightly higher here this morning, up 38 cents at 33.83 an ounce, trying to recover some of this resistance here in the chart. And if we take a look at copper, well, copper's holding in there good after a nice pop-up yesterday, holding in here on a bullish pattern, trying to show some gains. And you can see copper trying to move along here right now, up almost 5 cents. Platinum and palladium are also higher here this morning, so watch those closely. So what does all that mean for the day? Well, how about we settle in? Let's buckle up. Let's get ready for the Tuesday edition of the Morning Market Prep video. Good morning once again, everyone, and thanks so much for being here. I very much appreciate it. Let's take a look at these index charts. Remember, we want to look at these charts without a bias. We want to look at them for what they are, not for what we want it to be, and really focus in on the possibilities here in these index charts. Well, the Dow had a great day yesterday, breaking through this area of resistance in the chart, and that's pretty substantial in that resistance. So we ripped right through there, but then at the end of the day, we saw some selling come into the game, and just a little bit of light selling here this morning that may certainly pick up. But we're up here dealing with this little bit of a downtrending area. And if you'll notice right here in the chart, if we can continue to show that bullishness, right up in here, we've got that next level of resistance. And just keeping in mind, that kind of translates all the way across over here, that we'll want to be watching here in the chart if those bulls can follow through. If the bears have anything here to say today, well, there certainly is that possibility we could push back and retest this area as price support. Breaking that area would probably push us down, and you can see our area of support would be down here kind of in the middle of this range to test that area lower, keeping in mind that we could move on down and completely fill that gap here as well in the chart. Wouldn't be a major surprise if that were to occur. Remember, markets can go three directions, up, down, or sideways. So it is entirely possible we just rest for a period of time and rest out here in the diamonds as well. Now, looking at our moving averages, we broke sharply through that 200-day moving average, but we ran right up there to that 34 exponential moving average, and well, we backed away from that. We didn't like the way it looked. So watch that carefully here today. This mid area here could end up creating a little bit of zone of resistance here in the chart, and not so much here in the diamonds as it is on the SPY. If we take a look at the SPY, pushing back up here, nice move yesterday, pushing back up, and I'm going to just grab this line, extend it on down. There's that little downtrending channel that we started up here, popping up into some of that resistance here in the chart, and you can see we've got some of that resistance right across there, showing it's having a little bit of effect on the current price action in here as we backed away from it at the end of the day. Right now we're trying to get a little bit of bullishness going here this morning to keep that energy moving to the upside, but we'll want to watch that closely because it has been down most of the night and down here early in the pre-market they're trying to get a little pump up action going in here right now in the pre-market. So watch that carefully. If the bulls can push through this area, that's going to be pretty significant. Pushing through this area, we might stretch right on up here to that next area of resistance in the chart. So watch that carefully. And of course, if the bears were to have anything to say, and I'm going to zoom that back up, if the bears were to have anything to say, maybe a pushback down to retest the low of yesterday's candle. We've got a little bit of price support right in there along those wicks. Past that, if we push down, and I think this would be the stronger area of price support, we could come back down into here, see if we can hold. Dipping below there might raise a little bit of concern, but please keep in mind we still got the upside trend here in play. And we also have to consider the possibility that maybe we just rest this out now after such a big move to the upside. Let's take a look at our moving averages in here. We ran up and grabbed that 200-day moving average, and the trick today will be seeing if we can break through that 200-day moving average and hold above it. Up above, we've got that 34 EMA and a fairly significant area of price resistance to deal with in the chart. And you'll want to keep in mind that 50-day moving average is declining quite sharply. Now our QQQ still having a little bit of trouble here. Nice surge to the upside. We had a lot of big techs making a big push in there yesterday, trying to get things moving. Unfortunately, it wasn't followed by breadth, and we'll look at that in just a little bit. But a nice little push. If those bulls can continue to push through here today, then I would look for a stretch on up here to test this area of price resistance in the chart. Keeping an eye on that. Now, breaking through there could be pretty darn significant, pushing up into that next level. But we also have to look at the potential of the downside if those bears were to have anything to say in here today. A push down, maybe we test the low of the open of yesterday's candle. Watch that area there. If that were to give up, then that possible pullback in here to test that support area looks like a possibility. And then of course the next level lower would be a full closure of yesterday's gap coming back into this upside trend. Of course we can just drift sideways here, but if we take a look at our moving averages, we've still got a ways to go to get up there to that 200-day moving average. I want you to notice that the 20-day, we've already crossed back above that 20-day, but that 34 EMA coming down in here on top of that 200 could create a zone of resistance in here that's fairly substantial with moving averages and price resistance, and seeing just how quickly that 50-day moving average is declining as well. If we take a look at IWM has that unfortunate situation where we're already got the death cross where the 50 is crossed down through the 200. We ran up here nicely though, testing this resistance here in the chart, and that resistance, if you remember, runs all the way back here to 2001, 2002, those lows in that consolidating pattern here on IWM. So we'll want to watch that carefully. If the bulls can find inspiration, we need to attack that again and maybe breach it this time to the upside. And if that's possible, then maybe we can start stretching up and testing some of these areas up here in the Russell. The pullback possibility on this would be right back down here to yesterday's open in IWM. So if we were to pull back into there and hold, probably no problem, we could drift sideways out here toward the trend. But the other possibility is we break back down below that area, come back to this stronger area of price support and upside trend to see if we can hold that area in the chart. Now let's take a look at our VIX. Our VIX pulled back nicely yesterday, a good solid move to the downside on our VIX, closing below 18 handles here in in the VIX and breaking down below this area price support. So if those bulls can continue to push on through here on the day, well, you can see that next area price support down in here in the VIX is all the way down in here around 16 handles. Every reason to believe that they can continue to do that and push that on lower. However, we also have to consider the bearish side. If the bears were to have something to say in here, pop back up, maybe we'll see if we can retest some of these resistance levels back up here. This is quite a sharp decline here in the VIX. What we don't want to see is we don't want to see that full whipsaw in the market, and I do think that whipsaw unfortunately is possible because of the weakness in the breadth. We'll have to keep a close eye on that. Our T2122 here, our T2122 indicator stretched hard yesterday. You got to remember on Friday early in the day we were all the way down here in the bullish reversal zone, and in one fell swoop we're wham approaching the bearish reversal zone. So if we can get a little bit of bullish push here, we certainly have some upside opportunity in T2122. But we also want to consider we moved an awful lot in the rebound on Friday and yesterday's big pop to the upside. If those bears have anything to say, well, we've opened a big opportunity for them here as well to push this back down just a bit. And then if we take a look at our T2108, percentage of stocks above the 40-day moving average improved nicely yesterday. So you got to give this to the bulls. A nice stretch through, breaking through this resistance. 31% of the stocks back above their 40-day moving average. Still a little bit rough to make a big bullish case here on that. We'll want to be watching these next areas of resistance to the upside. If the bulls continue to push, keep an eye on those areas up in here if they can push on up. And of course, we've created some nice areas of price support if those bears have anything to say to push this back down. Watch that carefully. Same with T2107. Nice little improvement yesterday. Percentage of stocks above the 200-day, now in there around 35%. Breaking back through a little bit of price resistance right in here, coming into that next level of price resistance. Let's watch that carefully. If we can continue that bullishness, maybe we can push right on up here around 40% to test some of these next levels of resistance above. And of course, if those bears have anything to say, well, we can come back down here and test some of these areas of price support as well. We want to take a look at this T2101, and this is really unfortunate, in my opinion, that the breadth fell away hard yesterday. As we were zooming to the upside in a big gap up open and a big chase, there really wasn't a lot of breadth here, which makes me to believe that a lot of yesterday's move had more to do with short covering in the market than it did have in actual buying in the market. And that is a concern for me here because of such a big move. And what that means is we have that potential of a big whipsaw. If the bears were to come back in, and if we were to see that breadth increasing on any kind of a bearish wave, that would be worrisome here for us, I think. So pay close attention to that. We need to see that breadth push up here following that bullish wave. So far, we can't seem to get that going. So watch that carefully. Let's take a look at our economic calendar here for today. And our economic calendar, well, we certainly have a little bit to think about here this morning. We've got Fed speakers here this morning that we'll have to be paying attention to. And at the same time, we've got a Case-Shiller number. And for some reason, they're not giving us any consensus estimate in here on any of those monthly numbers. They've got a year over here. They're suggesting it stays flat. But watch this carefully on the Case-Shiller home prices here this morning. Certainly a market moving number. We're going to get the FHFA house pricing index month over month. That was at a 0.4 last time, year over year 4.7. So watch that close. And then probably the more important number of the day, my opinion, is going to be how the consumers are feeling. Right now, consensus is suggesting that the consumers have lost a little bit of confidence to 94.2 down from 98.2. You will want to remember that the market responds usually pretty well to what the consumer confidence is. If that were to happen to come in weaker than that, that's going to be a problem for the market, and we could see those bears reemerge. If, however, it surprises to the upside and comes in closer to what it was last time or even higher, then I would look for the market to respond bullishly to that today. So watch that closely. New home sales, they're looking at those to increase to 679,000, up from 657,000 on the last read. That would be bullish for the market as well. Maybe a little bit worrisome on the inflationary side, but bullish. And Richmond Fed Manufacturing looking for a decline in this from 6 to a 0.5. We've been seeing these manufacturing numbers showing weakness, so watch that closely here. We've got some bond auctions here this afternoon and a money supply number at the end of the day. As you plan forward, remember on Wednesday, normal mortgage applications, and then this durable goods report, definitely a market moving number we'll want to be paying attention to on Wednesday. Some more Fed speak, petroleum status, and some bond auctions in there for the day. If we take a look at our earnings calendar here for today, well, we've got a few reports to think about, but not a whole lot in the notable realm in here. Take a screenshot of that, pause the video, grab a quick screenshot. We're going to take a look at those here this morning. Let me slide that out of the way, and let's take a look at CSIQ here this morning. CSIQ trying to pop just a little bit higher. You can see it went down initially, trying to push right back here on that earnings report. CNM, a nice little recovery here after gapping lower, pushing right back up, kind of a belt hold on the intraday. Could be a change of direction here in CNM. CRMD going the other direction. We had a good pop up and then fading back. Still holding into some bullishness here, but watch that closely. And MKC gapping lower and also trying to bounce back up here this morning. So keep an eye on that guy. This afternoon, we've got GameStop that will be reporting, and WOR as those notables here this afternoon. So watch that carefully. Let's take a look at a few stocks that could be setting up for today. But before we do that, everyone, if you could do me that quick favor, if this is the first time you've seen these videos, if you can please click that subscribe button on YouTube and also click that bell icon when it pops up so you'll be notified every time I post a video. And if you find these videos to be useful or helpful, if you can do me that favor, clicking that thumbs up button, leaving a brief comment, that helps the channel to continue to grow. And thank you so much for everyone who takes the time to do that. I truly, truly appreciate it. Back on task of answering those comments, so thank you, everyone. I do appreciate the kind support. Let's take a look at some of these stocks that could be setting up. And remember, everyone, these are not recommendations to buy or sell any security. You need to do your own due diligence and be very, very careful in this market. I still am a little bit worried about the potential of a big point whipsaw if those bulls can't find that breadth to start helping support this run to the upside. Now, having said that, let's take a look at a few of these that I think have some potential. Take a look at RTX. RTX, nice move here yesterday, pushing back up, trying to reclaim some support in the chart. RTX has been moving in this upside trend, looking pretty good overall. I'd keep an eye on that. It may have to rest here just a little bit more, but this aerospace and events really starting to pick up, and I think one of the reasons it suddenly got some energy again was just simply the reorganization of Europe and the fact that they're going to be increasing their defense spend. So watch that carefully on RTX. We've got General Dynamics in here, also showing a little bit of bullishness, broke through some resistance, trying to come back up. I think it's worth paying attention to here on General Dynamics. If we can get that bullishness coming in here, that little higher low right there might just be what the doctor ordered to push that guy on higher. And then if we take a look at MSTR, MicroStrategy. Now, MicroStrategy is really nothing more than a Bitcoin holding company anymore, but MicroStrategy pushing through that downtrend and holding in this consolidation here. So we've got that double bottom W formation here in the chart. We came right up into this resistance and found energy to pop on through. So watch that carefully here in the chart. If we can maintain this area of support up here, well, I would look for that next opportunity here for MicroStrategy to maybe push on higher. We clearly have a little bit of price resistance right there that we're going to have to deal with, so don't be surprised if this has to rest back or consolidate a little bit, but I would watch carefully for that opportunity there in MicroStrategy. Keeping on kind of on that same thing, we had a nice move here in Robinhood, breaking through that downtrend here. Passing through some of this resistance, and so watch that carefully. Any rest consolidation in here may set up that next opportunity in Robinhood. And I'm going to say Riot is starting to show some signs of relief to the upside. Not quite there, prime time wise, but you can see coming back up. We'll see how it deals with this price resistance here in the chart. A little bit of rest, a little bit of consolidation though, and we set up that higher low there in Riot, worth paying attention to. Boy, I would be really remiss if I didn't bring up what's going on in gold. Take a look at this beautiful pattern here in gold, still holding in there above $3,000 an ounce. We're right now $3,029 an ounce, up $13.60 an ounce here this morning in the pre-market. Watch that carefully. We may still have to rest out here to trend a little bit, but watch that carefully. With those bonds moving up, there is a little concern, a little worry about what these inflation numbers might be showing us toward the end of the week. And we've got a little bit of an elevation going on here. If you want something a little bit cheaper to trade, take a look at PHYS. PHYS is a physical gold ETF. Nice little pattern setting up in here as well. Bullish pattern. Watch that carefully. PHYS. We would also want to take a look at some of the miners out here. Take a look at Barrick Gold. Barrick Gold looking good, setting up a bullish pattern, that possibility of bouncing up off this support and trend. Certainly a possibility. Things like AG moving up nicely here. You could look at Newmont Mining. A lot of things happening in there. We could also take a look on the mining side. Take a look at FCX. FCX has been making this run to the upside. We've been noticing that copper trying to make that move in here, and FCX is getting it done here, breaking through some resistance in the chart, following on through to the upside. So I would watch this carefully. Any rest, consolidation, or pullback in here might set up that next opportunity to the upside there in Freeport. So keep a close eye on that. Now, we had a lot of stocks making some moves back up yesterday. Unfortunately, a lot of them are just what I call a crossover up. We stretched this move, this first wave, we stretched this up. Now the next question, after breaking back through this resistance in the chart, can we hold it on any pullback or consolidation? We're going to want to watch that closely, because it does us no good, just like right in here, if we rally back up into those areas and fail. So watch that carefully. We don't want to see this make that big push back up here into this resistance and then reverse and come on down. And I'll show you, if we take a look at our moving averages, this is right at the place where I'd be watching for that potential blue ice failure. We've got a very similar situation here in Visa. Visa did make it back above that 50 yesterday, but watch that as we push back into that resistance. This is a classic potential failure pattern. pattern where we make that move down, we rally back, and then we start rolling over to the downside. So watch that carefully here in Visa. If we take a look, IBM trying to hold on to that 50-day moving average. It is one of the techs that, although it has pulled back, still hanging in there on that 50-day moving average. So watch that closely. If we can get some tech bullish action in here, maybe we start breaking through some of this resistance up here, looking a little bit better. But I got to tell you, I would not rule out that possibility. This eventually follows the rest of tech, and we find that selling and push that down below that 50-day. This is one of those that could go either direction pretty quickly and pretty easily. So keep a close eye on that. Now, when we take a look at some of those casinos out there, boy, casinos haven't been looking very good. And although we've got a nice 2-day bounce back up rally here, take a look at when we're coming right into that downtrend. We're coming right into this big consolidation of all these moving averages. I would watch this carefully for that possibility of that potentially rolling over to the downside. Keep a close eye on that, and we can see things like Penn National still showing weakness. Caesar's Palace, lots of weakness in here. So watch those carefully if those bears were to get going. Bumble still showing quite a bit of weakness here despite that big pop yesterday. We've got a bear flag setting up here. Watch carefully if we do get some bearishness in the market, how that could roll back to the downside. Let's take a look at DoorDash here. DoorDash making that nice stretch above the 50. And here's where we, this is that really important area. Can we hold this now? We're pushing up here to that next area of price resistance in the chart. This needs maybe a little bit of consolidation or rest, but if it can hold in here around that upside trend, I would be watching for that next potential move to the upside. If this gets a full-on reversal, well, all bets are off. We could really start moving down from there on DoorDash. So keep a close eye on that. So there's a few stocks for you to pay attention to. You know, I still like stocks like LAC that may be setting up in here. There are quite a few out here to be paying attention to. Oil sector stock has been holding up really well. Some good patterns showing up there. We're starting to see some of the defensive sector stocks finally getting a little bit of a rest or pullback, and that could be encouraging for those bulls. Some money coming out of that defensive sector, maybe pouring back in toward the tech. But we've got to be really, really careful here. So with that, everyone, I want to wish you all a fantastic day. I want to wish you great results in your trading. Thanks so much for being here. Thanks so much for supporting the channel. I do truly appreciate it. And I'll see you right back here bright and early Wednesday morning. As always, I wish you great success and all the best for today.